The Big Ten Championship game. You going to watch? I am. Saturday night, 8 o'clock on Fox. Michigan, Purdue. Some people, some on the streets are saying that the Big Ten division structure has robbed us of what could be a great game. Now, I know what they mean. They mean we could be seeing Michigan, Ohio State again. But then the more I thought about it, the more I wondered, is it really robbing us? Because last week's game could not mean what it meant if you knew that a rematch was inevitably on the table. How strange would that have felt? How strange would a Big Ten championship game between the two feel? I've never been crazy about that dynamic in the NFL. It's unavoidable. Sometimes it happens, but I've never been crazy about it. So I don't know actually how I feel about that. I know that Michigan's a healthy favorite here for a reason. Now, I'm going to paper pop this because it's not a comforting stat for Michigan folks. Hopefully for you guys, it's not going to matter. I'm just saying before everyone writes this game off and goes to, what are you doing going to bed before 8? But if you do go to bed before 8, I want you to remember this before you close your eyes. The last 3 times that Purdue has played a top 5 team, 2021, they won 40-29 outright, Michigan State. 2021, they won 24-7 outright against Iowa. 2018, 49-20, they won outright against number 2, Ohio State. You can either tell me it means everything or it means nothing. Someone's right. This is a topsoil special, and I can't even take credit for this. We get a great research packet from Ryan McGrady and the gang, but I cannot take credit for the following stat. And it's very much in your face, but this is what we call a topsoil special. The topsoil special means that it looks one way on the surface, but if you just push away that top layer, the truth lies somewhere underneath. And our buddies over at College Football Nerds, I always love listening to their previews because I love their thumbnails on YouTube, truthfully. They were talking about this game, and they said, don't get fooled about total yardage. Total yardage is a grossly misleading metric, wholesale, but especially when it comes to Purdue, you could look at their passing yardage and you could fool yourself into believing, oh, this team's capable of just bombing away on Michigan. Well, it's because they throw it every down. And so when you dive into it a little bit more, I didn't even know it was this glaring, but they did the research so I didn't have to. Passing yards per attempt, Purdue is 92nd in the country. So it doesn't matter if you have 300 yards passing. If it took you like 70 passes to do it, doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot. Yards per play, they're 80th in the country. Those are not overly special numbers. Oh, and by the way, it rings true when you look at their schedule. They've lost 4 games already. They're just in here because that's the way the structure of the divisions works out. They're 77th in points per drive. Michigan's 8th. So you know there's this thing that you could convince yourself of, and that's really only if you haven't watched the teams play. You could convince yourself, Michigan, defensive special team, and that's the way they get by, and Purdue is just pinball. That's not it. Michigan is 8th in points per drive. Purdue 77th. Michigan is the better offensive team here, and the better defensive team, and the better coach team. They're just the better team. That's why they're favored by what they're favored by. I know this doesn't sound like I'm painting a very rosy picture for Purdue. They could compete here. They could contend here. But if they do, it's just going to be because of the game on the field. I want to spoil one thing for you right now. Letdown will have nothing to do with this. You can go ahead and get that out of your vernacular about this game. I'm not telling you Michigan couldn't struggle. I'm not telling you some random upset couldn't happen. It won't be because of a letdown. By this time, by this point in the year, teams like this have downhill momentum. There will be no letdown. They are too professional a program to allow themselves to let down. Last year, they played Ohio State in the snow. They won for the first time in a bajillion years. They undressed. They splattered Iowa the next week. It was not even close. There was never a question of whether they had shown up or not. If you think they went through what they went through last week and really all year to lay down, to no-show the Big Ten championship game, you're crazy. So what can Purdue take away? That question I asked myself at about 3:30 today, and it's 7:45 now, and I still don't have an answer because I think Michigan's too balanced offensively. I think coming into last week, maybe some people would have made an argument if you can limit the run, or maybe they're banged up in the ground game, then you can trust yourself to not get burned by J.J. McCarthy and company. I think they possessed the ability to do what they did last week all year. Now, those were explosive plays, which count. So maybe you convince yourself if we just limit the explosive plays, we'll be okay. Purdue's pass defense, I don't think is good enough to even limit them just working their way pretty methodically down the field. It's a big spread for a conference title game. I know that, but here's what else I know. Michigan is number 1 in FBS, in point per game differential. They are plus 27.2 per game. So that spread being 16.5 or 17 doesn't seem so fat anymore. Let's take a look at what the model thinks. Vegas, as I said, Michigan minus 16.5. The model is close to that. It's just a tick north of that. We've got Michigan minus 17.5. I think it's going to be a wider margin than that, actually. I don't think this is going to be competitive. Now, the total is only 51.5. So, what we could look at here is 34-10, something like that. And you could hit your under and still cover. I know a lot of you don't like taking those big favorites and unders. And I'm certainly not even going to whisper the P word. I'll whisper it, actually. Parlay. Don't do it. Don't let me catch you doing it. You're not a friend of the program. If you're out there wasting mom and dad's money on parlays, I'm going to take Michigan to win. I'm going to take Michigan to cover. I think that someone out there is going to make a pretty spirited argument for them to be the 1 seed, and it's not going to work if Georgia wins, but I think someone's going to make that argument. Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure and leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.